Hi guys, and welcome to the Results-Based Training Podcast. Thank you for watching. My name is Beau Williams. I have ran small group training facilities in and around South Manchester now for going on around 12 years. In that time, I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of local men and women in trying to help them make lifting weights, the gym, healthy living a part of their life, a part of their consistent routine. The idea behind the podcast is to get guests on, mainly my clients, so that I can share their experiences, their battles, their struggles, with a view to helping any of you watching make this a part of your life consistently moving forward. In today's episode, we've got a client of mine on called Neil. Neil, before he started with us just over sort of 8-9 months ago, had a real shift in his personal life. He'd worked for a company, quite a high-profile football club, for just over 20 years, and he got made redundant. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how he's dealt with that. He's now gone self-employed, how he's managing to juggle his career, his family life, and his gym. We also talk about how he's had a couple of injuries and a couple of illnesses that we have helped him overcome and navigate through our training. He mentions Ez, who is one of our coaches at RBT, and he also references a client called Barry, who we like to call the Chuck Norris of results-based training because he's just built differently. Top guy, top client. If you enjoy watching this podcast, please like it, please share and subscribe. If you've got any comments or anything you'd like to share, please whack them on the video. Thank you for watching. Neil, welcome. Thanks for your time today, mate.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Neil, I want to start this podcast off by offering someone watching, the viewer, a little bit of context about you as an individual. I think it's really easy for us to see people online and think they must have it easy. You know, they've got all their shit together. They're a bit different to me. So, mate, let's just begin. Let's understand what your week looks like and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the funniest thing is I came for my induction with RBT on the early part of the week, and the next day I was made redundant from the place I was at for 21 years. So for me, it could have been fight or flight. Really, it could have been, whoa, okay, I'm down in the dumps, etc. But it didn't. I came in and did the next week, and obviously going from there. But so now. Context on that was that I'm now self-employed, so my week is very interchangeable. So I can be out of the country one week, the next week I can be travelling, a lot of travelling now in my job, etc., and a lot of meetings. And when you are self-employed, you never have a day off sick, you never take a day off, etc. Mm-hmm. So I think sometimes with me is trying to get that consistency in terms of when I'm doing it. So I love the early morning slots. I'm not too bad up to sort of 5 o'clock. After that, I feel depending on the day I've had, etc., like that. Bit fatigued and things like that. And obviously, I'm nearly 47, so
young mate.
Hopefully. But yeah. So my week can look different. That's the thing for me, which is exciting as well. I think I enjoy that, the fact that no one week looks the same as the next, but it can at times be challenging in terms of making sure I get in. But I think you did a message in the chat not long ago, and I think that was one of the biggest takeaways. I think obviously diet and sleep, and we know water and intake is massive, but if you can just make sure you get to 3 sessions a week, that's the real accountability that you can take, and that really sort of hit home with me. And I think bar just a period when I was not well, I've at least hit 3 or away, obviously, hit 3 a week, which has been the big thing. And then the other thing side for me is making sure I'm ticking those other boxes, really. But I think that accountability thing for me has been massive, and that's why I had a gym membership before somewhere else, a franchise gym as such. But it was just that, again, it was too easy to say, no, I'm not going to do it here. And I think the accountability here, because of, the guys, whether it's you, as Ryan, etc., yeah, the way I am, the type of person I am is, you will know if I've signed up for that, I can't cancel. Now I might have to switch it because of a late call in the day or something, but I'm going to make sure I do it, or certainly going to make sure the 3 in, because you do feel a little bit accountable there. And then also the community that's come now, you get to know the lads, and there's certain ones that from a 7 a.m. or a 5 p.m. and different things like that, and that's also quite nice. He's not doing the same one every week, every day, every week, because then you get to know some of the other lads in the group. And then when we went out just recently for a social gathering. It was great that you knew 10, 12 of the lads, etc. And you'd see some of the ones as you're coming in and they're going, etc. So, so my week can look a little bit different.
A little different.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned there then that you reached out to us just before that happened.
Yeah.
So massive life-changing event. And I want to stress that really, because it was big, right?
Yeah, massive.
You worked for a place for so long.
Yeah.
It's just a huge shift and change.
Massive.
So as you said, you could have bailed and you could have been like, whoa, let me retreat and go and fix what I've got to fix. But you didn't.
No.
But you obviously, you sort of inquired with us before it.
Yeah.
So what would you have said was the absolute main, often when I talk to people, there's a defining moment, right? Where they're like, right, I'm fed up of my own shit.
Yeah.
Or I'm fed up of talking or thinking about this now. What would that have been for you that made you kind of reach out?
Probably a little bit sort of cosmetically, and I'd been in America coaching over the summer, and obviously when I was here coaching in the UK, A, I didn't have many photos taken of me, B, we live in Manchester, so it's...
I actually remember you mentioning this to me.
It was mostly, you're in zip-ups or your coats, etc. like that, and I just felt big over there. It was in America, obviously everything's bigger and stuff, and I'd done sort of back-to-back trips. I'd done Malta coaching, I'd done America coaching, and some of the photos got back sent to me, and I was like, no, that doesn't look great. Now, to the point where I'd say even last week, where I've had some photos sent to me, so I know I still need to get better. But for me, it was the health issue, really. Just taking the dog out and stuff. I just got to a point where I was feeling continually tired. Like I say, cosmetically, I was thinking, I need to do something here.
It is a big motivator for us, 100%. I think, as men, you know what I mean? Because I would say that how we feel about ourselves is where our confidence comes from. And confidence spills out to work, especially in your job, right? You're leading people.
Absolutely.
You're coaching people.
That's the biggest thing. And then the fight or flight sort of moment was that, just after being made redundant, I was having conversations with people and people were trying to cajole me and motivate me and, obviously say all the qualities that I had, etc. But I remember one person say to me that unless you're going to go into another club again, which I decided not to, I'd had a few offers, but I decided not to. He said, well, you're your own brand now. So whenever you go somewhere, you are your own brand. And there is this whole snobbery in coaching, in football, that if you see somebody who's maybe not looking as fit and trim and is a leader or a coach, etc., there is that football snobbery or, whatever sports snobbery to think like, well, do as you say,
Same
do as you think.
Same in the PT world, mate.
I can imagine.
100%. When I first started PT, and I was probably 3-4 stone heavier than I am now, I had a big passion for it, but absolutely didn't look like I should be doing it.
100%.
And definitely felt that.
And that was a big thing for me, I think, is, okay, this is my own brand now, so I need to start looking a little bit better. I need to start looking at it. I don't think so once you knowledge and you're actually delivering the sessions or having those conversations and obviously my background
you've got
and stuff.
It already, right?
You've got it already, but
100%.
it's just that I just wanted to feel better. And there's been peaks and troughs where you feel great, you feel not so good and things like that. But like I say, that was the moment I think where I just thought, no, I need to do something about it then. And then literally had the induction with Ez, and then was due to start on the Monday on my birthday, and I did do it. And I'd just been made redundant like the 2 days before, I think it was. So.
I think stars align there, bro.
Potentially.
Yeah. Well, with us, for us, anyway.
100%.
I'm glad we met you when we did.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. You've obviously, you smashed it with your time with us. So then again, exploring that sort of self-employed side of it, and you've mentioned getting into the gym a few times a week and so on. How do you feel that you carving out that time for yourself, even though your week is probably telling you've got other things to do? How do you feel it impacts your productivity, your ability to show up, and also I guess your confidence to move forward? Yeah. And take care of it all. Yeah,
so on a Sunday I try and plan the week ahead. If anything, I have a spreadsheet, but I've got months ahead. So obviously with now self-employed, you're trying to get bookings in the system and things like that. But I try and do the Sunday ahead, so I have what an ideal week looks like from a gym perspective. So nice. I think that's the most important thing. Is that? Would you say you start with that? Or yeah. Okay. Unless there's something where I know I'm away. So for example, out of the country or something. I'd have out of the country or but there 100% I start with the gym, and that isn't just because I'm looking at that. I try and prioritise that, and then there's stuff like taking the dog out, making go and see my my elderly parents and things like that. So that's the way I prioritise it, and then work is in and around that as well, and calls. So the 100% the best ideal for me is if I can get in at 7 a.m, I'm done for the day. That accountability is done. You are done. it makes you want to eat better throughout the day. But that just isn't possible sometimes, particularly if I'm having sort of early morning calls because people need to calls on their way to work or things like that. And then there's not been many. I would say there's definitely not been many. I would say there may be 2 or 3 where I've actually said I'm due to be in today. I'm not in today. Maybe not even 2. So I'm quite good that I know that even if I was meant to be in at 7 and I can't do the 7, I will definitely.
Yeah, you get in later on in the day. Yeah, I'm very aware of that already. Yeah,
definitely not many times I'll cancel. I'll move and things like that potentially because of calls and certainly with self-employment. But no, I definitely start the week with thinking. I literally. Was speaking about it to somebody yesterday. I said, because I've been away, I was ill. So even the week, I did 3 sessions in between being ill and going to America, but I wasn't at it. So
I remember because I think I was coaching on one of them with you actually.
You did, and we had a right stretch at the end, didn't we? Because the hamstring I think was tight, and I think I'd been the previous week. I drove to Southampton, I drove to Luton, I drove all these places and stuff. So I'd had a lot of travelling as well, and that's a lot of things with me. Is being in the car now as well. So it's making sure that, like say, I find the time we just spoke about before about making sure that I'm, we do a really good stretch at the start, but making sure accountability is I'm looking after myself, and I need to start getting in that ice bath and sauna and like we just spoke about before, maybe making the sessions more 90 minutes for me, which again is better in the morning. Then
let's just offer a bit of context to anyone listening here. So you suffer with a few bits, don't you? Like we've got really tight hips, we've got lower dominant back. Legs, massive legs, right? We joke about this, but they're absolutely strong as hell. But they potentially get pulled into work, in other areas where they're not necessarily needed, because they're so dominant, and because of that, we suffer with we've got really tight calves, tight hammies. So what we've suggested to you to do is just, as you say there, just add a little bit of time onto your sessions to prioritise that.
100%.
When you're in the car so much, right, and you're travelling so much, right, and then when you're not in the car, so this is a counter position for us: the car, the desk. Then you're on your feet all day.
And I haven't got a desk, so I haven't actually got a desk. So I'm literally a laptop tray thing. So I am sat down when I'm there. So I'm not even, I remember my older place of work, I had a stand-up desk, which I loved. I loved because you're allowed to get around things. So if I'm not in my car, if I'm not on a plane, if I'm not here, I'm working, and it's very hunched over, and it's sort of like that. So 100%. I need to start making more time for the pre-ab. And sort of rehab, sort of post.
Yeah, but I think you're doing well, mate. I think you're a busy guy, and I think what I really like that you've said there is, yes, you have your plan. You know that your 7 a.m. is your good window. Yes, you could probably do with another hour in bed, as most people could do, but you're getting in, you're getting it done. If on those mornings you can't, you're adjusting and coming back in the evening. I think that's quite a big deal. We had a podcast interview with Nigel the other week. He travels a lot with work. I find it quite incredible, to be honest, because for most people, even just staying local most of the week, 9 to 5 or 8 to 6, whatever it is, they struggle. And you're away doing all these things, but you're getting in. And I think it's good. I think credit where credit's due. Would you say there is a distinct difference that you notice when you are getting in and are feeling some form of progression in the gym and when you're not?
100%. So there was a point, probably my best point, just before I got ill, unfortunately, where the big thing for me is when I started is the fitness side. So when so not the strength stuff, the real cardio stuff, the conditioning stuff. So I remember as a player, I hated pre-season. I was one of the players that hated pre-season. But once I got into it, after my teeth started hurting during pre-season, and you're being sick, and in them days I'm 47, we ran a lot in pre-season.
Is that code for it was an absolute smoker of a session? Or,
Really? But then once I was fit. Through the season, I was fit, so I'd be one of the fittest in the team. In terms of lasting 90 minutes, would never hardly be taken off and things like that. So I was the fittest. So it was always one of them where I had to work really, really hard every pre-season. I just think genetics of my body a little bit. But once I was fit, and I think with me here is when I first started. I think the rounds are, you might not even think about it as much now because you've obviously been doing it a while, but the rounds for me were really significant. That at the start, I was maybe doing 2 rounds, and I'd see people who'd been at the gym a little bit longer doing the 3 rounds, or maybe even a couple who'd start a 4th round. And I would say up to the point where, so I made a real conscious decision in me that I needed to start getting up to them 3 rounds, whatever it was. I needed to start finishing 3 rounds and really driven and real silo mentality to, you know, depending, because in those you don't really do it as a pairs, but making sure that I was just going from it, stop having my drinks in between. Drinks are important, but just that, having a drink.
Yeah, you were giving yourself a good go, right?
Yeah, would stop my momentum in a way, really, and things, and I'd maybe get a little bit distracted, etc. So I got into that mindset, and just before I got poorly, I was easily completing a 3 every tee, and if anything, starting a couple of 4s really. Every time looking over at Barry and thinking, right, I'm having you, Baz. I'm starting a 4th as well, Baz.
Chuck Norris, aka Barry.
He was potentially doing his 5th or his 6th, but I thought I was close.
He's probably been and had a nap halfway through.
He's already done it. It was his second session of the day. But no, that was massive to me, and I think that's my mentality now with having been poorly, being away this last week is trying to get back to them levels. So I think for me it's the cardio side of it. I think the strength side of it, I'm not too bad. You know, just recently when we had the trying to do the strength week, training week, I broke 3 PBs that week.
Nice.
So, you know, I think the strength side of things, I'm not too bad. You know, there's some big lads in here. And
when you hit a PB and you go off and do your day, how does that impact your day, or does it, would you say? If you leave here feeling like you've given it and you've
I think my mindset is that I'm not overly, I think because I'm quite hard on myself, I just see it as okay, that's just a natural progression. I just think, well, okay, now I want to beat it again type thing. So it doesn't really,
like most blokes.
Yeah, it doesn't really, I don't really sort of celebrate it probably enough, because I'm thinking, right, okay, well, yeah, you need to get better in that one now. You need to do this. So I would say it's more the cardio and the condition I'd be more proud of myself with. You know, like I say, just before I got poorly, they're the levels I know I want to get back to. Whereas I was leaving it, not with anything left in the tank. I felt like I'd given everything, but I was completing 3 rounds. Then we were doing the finishes and stuff like that. So
yeah, you're getting that fulfillment of it, aren't you? Because you're seeing yourself physically progressing.
Yeah,
because it's undeniable in it. If you're getting it,
as I'll remember a couple of times where he's come out, and I've gone out the back there, and he's like, "You all right?" And he's like, "You've been sick?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "I don't know if that's a good or a bad advert. If anybody's walking down, oh, we might sign up for that gym, but to that level now where, you know, that hasn't been anywhere, you know, in my psyche and things like that, which is 100%. That the conditioning's better. Talk
to me about like, you know, being hard on yourself a little bit. You know, how do you feel that shows up in your day to day? Why do you feel like you do that?
I don't know. I think sort of always, you know, and obviously, you know, the manager we were under was all about standards and high standards and being a class above and things like that. So I've always had that drive. So for 17 years, I worked 2 jobs, 7 days a week, 3 evenings, raising 4 young children. So there was no off switch. There isn't still any off switch now, particularly probably because I'm self-employed. There's, if that phone call goes, you know, and I'm also working on the next thing. So, you know, I'm really excited with where I'm at with the work that I'm doing, but there's a couple of really exciting opportunities that may be in the pipeline, and it's not about chasing the dollar, it's about chasing, you know, a real career path now where, you know, I'm at a state of life where I can still get on the pitch and I can still coach and I still deliver, but there's a real value in me being able to deliver coach education and player education based on all the experience that I've got. So there's some really exciting things coming up, but yeah, there's no off switch. I get told it all the time, you're working too hard, you're going to hit a wall, and somebody told me like 2 days before I was poorly, you're going to hit a wall, Neil. You drove to Southampton on the Saturday, came back on the Sunday, went straight somewhere else. And I think I was Tuesday, I was in Luton, and then Reading, on the Tuesday, and then she got to Luton. So it was just a lot. So I need to prioritise. Yeah,
this is the thing. I think
still fresh.
When I talk to self-employed people or people that run businesses, I think sometimes, as much as we want balance and we know it's important, there's times, you know, and I think inevitably people do hit a brick wall with it. I think celebrating your wins is important for yourself.
And I tell this to people.
Yeah, of course, and so do I. And just for context, right, I am as guilty of it as you, mate. Right, so absolutely, it's always the next thing. It's always raising the bar. But then I think sometimes we don't just ever have a minute to breathe. Yeah. You know, and again, you've started a new phase. So I've been self-employed like my whole life almost. So I understand where you're at. You know, you're grafting, you're getting it done. Yeah. But it is important to celebrate. I think one of the reasons why we do the programming the way we do it here, like you mentioned about hitting a PB there. Yeah. I think it's important to take a minute to acknowledge that a lot of ducks have got to have been in a row for you to have hit those PBs. Yeah, true. They're not fluke. They're actually a lot of things: rest, hydration, nutrition. You know, the way that you're approaching the session in the gym, you know, so credit, man, where credit's due. You know, it's, I think you're doing great. I think you're doing a good job. You've been a great client to have in the gym. And you are a demonstration of like those people watching and listening, mate, that have got a million excuses as to why they can't maintain 3 sessions a week in the gym.
Yeah.
You're kind of debunking it.
100%. Like I say, I had a gym membership. It wasn't worth the paper that it was written on every month. It was going out the bank. I would maybe go a few times and go in, but I wouldn't have a plan.
Like a plan to follow.
And I think that's one of the greatest things here is that, it's done for you. And the thing is, it's not box ticking here. It is continually evolving. As I coach myself, my sessions have to be challenging, high challenge, high support, progressive, age appropriate to a degree, so you're going to know. Obviously, my age, it's age appropriate, and yours, it's more. Potentially, if somebody's got a problem there, we'll swap it out and things. And again, that's the beauty of the gym here is that you'll challenge us to do something, but you'll also know the characters will say, well, he isn't a quitter there. There must be a problem where he can't do that. Okay, we'll swap it out for this, but then we'll challenge him maybe here. High challenge, high support. I'm a massive believer in that. So yeah, just the accountability here and the fact that it's done for you. It's done
you
for
turn
you.
up because again, busy mind, right? So if you had to think about planning the gym,
how many sessions I have to plan a week anyway, and now if I'm having to plan my own sessions and things like that, it's massive. Like, so just been in America there, I've done 6 sessions, and because I was putting on coach education, I couldn't just copy a session and say, I'm going to do the session again here now. Different set of kids, but they do it there because they were watching me from a coach education perspective. So I did sort of 6 different sessions with 4 different parts. So straight away, the numbers, you do the maths on that, it's your planning of that plus delivering some CPD and things. And that's, again, like I say, what's great about here is the accountability is massive for me. The community is massive. I've missed it. I've literally missed it.
Yeah,
We've been
I'm
away
really
this
enjoying the community.
This last week, it's, it is great. You've got to know some people. A few people follow me on Instagram now. Something, again, that I'm still trying to get used to because that was, didn't have an Instagram, didn't have a LinkedIn. It was all about being humble and staying out of it, and now you've got to sort of celebrate your wins.
Well, you've got to start selling yourself as well, bro. Which
are tough because I'm the hardest, my hardest critic, and don't really know my worth at times and sell myself. But I'm starting to get there a little bit when you have to really and things. And the biggest thing that you said there about confidence is it doesn't matter whether you are playing for England or you're playing for a grassroots team or you're playing vets or whatever like that. Confidence is massive. Yeah, confidence it's just something that's so underrated, undervalued. It doesn't matter, and that's what you guys give as coaches to us, the clients, is that confidence. My
theory on confidence is it comes from doing.
Yeah.
It's not anything else. It's not results driven. It's not anything. Genuinely, I've looked at this over the years because I've looked at people that have done incredibly well with this body composition or this training or whatever. I don't think it's isolated to that.
No.
What I think it is like, I'm going to do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then you do it.
Yeah. Well, it's like if I had a conversation, if I was talking to a player now and things like that, I could make him feel 10 feet tall by the time he's walking out of it. Yeah. But until he does it, until he puts into practice, the theoretical stuff that we're talking about, it doesn't mean anything. The confidence will breed, yes, walking out of it, but you then got to, like you say, deliver and do and feel to actually gain that stuff. And that, again, that's why it's so important here is that you can see it's really measurable. To use again loads of coaching analogies, it's measurable. You can actually see your gains, whether that's in your PBs, whether that's in your cardio, whether that's in your breathing. So that's a big thing. Breathing
on your body comp.
On your body comp, that's what I mean. So there's loads of different things. So for me is, me and Ez have really sat down with stuff, and Ez really set me challenges with protein and stuff. I've got 1 kidney, so I have to be careful with stuff like that. And then we've gone after a couple of things like intermittent fasting, and I do have a definite problem, not with food because I can. I'm not a massive eater and things like that, but it's just finding the ways of trying to get enough of protein, enough of the good stuff in. So evening meal's not too bad. Breakfast, I'm hit and miss. It's those lunch times when I'm in the car and I'm going to meetings, and a lot of meetings tend to be 11 till sort of 2 and things. And sometimes if you miss it, then I'm hungry and then do I have a snack? So I think that's where my goal for the next, now I've just come back from America, hopefully a few more weeks till I go to America. So hopefully I've got a bit of consistency, is to really work on getting in here 3 times a week, which is fine, but it's then marrying that with a bit of the nutrition side of things and water and stuff. And I know it's the definition of insanity of we say all the time, don't we, doing the same things and expecting different results. And that's, 100% is where I need to get better. And like I say, it's not from a want of, Wes sending me I can't remember the software is, a personal video message. Which
the Loom videos. I think with nutrition, it's about building habits. And I think what happens is we get fed up of our own shit and then we want to change everything tomorrow. Yeah. And it's the hardest thing, I think, because you naturally want to do that because you want to achieve this result.
But that's why that video was so powerful that you did for me, was that you mentioned about like 3 or 4 things. And for me, it was what can I definitely affect is the getting in 3 times and things. And I think that's what's
And again, when we talk about the confidence, that's kind of what I mean. So if I set you a challenge around something, if I set it up here, it might feel nice in the kind of striving for it, but like for someone like you, who's really chocker and got all these, I'm likely setting you up to fail a little bit. Well, then what's going to happen?
100%.
Actually, all I want you to do is find a consistent rhythm in something. Yeah. And the easier, the better. And then we habit stack. Yeah. So when we've done that for a few weeks and we've started to become, a lot of people, it's even becoming more aware of things like protein and what nutrients I'm actually getting through my food.
Definitely.
And actually when I'm eating on the go, what are the good choices that I can make? So it's just making, it's a massive just journey, I think. You start thinking, the first thing is you think about it. Next thing is, where does it come from? Next thing is I try and implement some of it. Fast forward 3 months, this is normal now. Yeah. So what do we do now?
100%.
And that's how we approach it. So... Okay then, so a question for you would be, what does, and we've probably covered it a little bit here, but what does success look like for you in your fitness journey? Like if we look at maybe the next 2 to 3 years.
Consistency. I think consistency with growth, but consistency is massive for me because of, July when I joined, back in the July, so we're coming up to 6-7 months now. 8 months, is that consistency. So just spoken about, signing up for the next 3 months. That's massive. That's locked in.
That's you sort of stick in the ground almost.
100%. Right? Locked in. Where does that take me to? Okay, that takes me to there. Then obviously a busy period in the summer. We'll all be in America quite a bit in the summer and things. So I'm like, So I think for me is consistency with the training, consistency with food, water. Diet, the alcohol, making sure that, I'm looking after myself in that way. Sleep's a bit of I have a horrible time with sleep because of my prostate and my one kidney. I'm up a lot. So again, I have a love-hate with water. When people say you need to drink this amount of water, for people with one kidney, that's horrible. Yeah, it's a lot of work, because it's a lot of work, up all night. If I'm working during the day or I'm in meetings and stuff, I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but like if I go into a meeting and even if I go to the toilet beforehand, So I have this real love-hate with water. It's horrible that, I...
Do you get your electrolytes in?
I haven't been recently, but I think I
think it really helps with that. You actually have to drink less, I believe. Yeah. It really helps hydrate your cells fully. Yeah. It helps with things like your energy levels, your concentration.
Well, I was doing that actually, to be fair. Again, you think back to consistency and good habits. I was doing that. So I would have one as I left here, particularly in the morning. Okay. And then I would try and have one later on in the day. And I would say, I would probably link that actually to when I was feeling good from an aerobic and cardio perspective as well. So that's definitely one that when I get out of here today, I'll probably start thinking about in terms of getting back to habit. But I think consistency for me, consistency with a little bit of growth, stuff fitting better. Just your general things really, like you say, you mentioned my legs, so that's never going to change from
I hope not, bro.
a jeans and suit perspective, but just sort of top half really, and unfortunately when you get to the thing, it's the middle spread, and that's the thing that when just looked at pictures that people were taking as part of the obviously the activity I was in, is that I can really notice. So that's a big driver for me. But I think, like you say, is that if I just go after that. It's not a false promise, because of course you can lose weight and you can tone up and things like that. But that for me that will be a byproduct of
like secondary
coming
almost.
In the gym 3 days a week.
Yeah.
I get bloated a lot. Whether it's a little bit because of the kidney and things like that and stuff, or whether because I drink the water and then because I can't process it. So it's a lad's chat this. So if I go to the toilet, when I went for a recent scan recently to examine it, I had to fill up on water, not go to the toilet, then I had an ultrasound, and then she said, right, okay, go and empty your bladder. Felt like amazing, yeah, I've emptied my bladder, went back and she said it's still half full. Okay, so that's the problems that I have, is that I feel like I've emptied my bladder, but I'm still half full in there, so then I'll go again in the next 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So that's where it's just tough at times to work on the fluid intake without absolutely then killing me. And you were talking about sleep, but then I can then have a real massively disturbed sleep as a result of it and things like that. So it goes back to what's the thing I can really control is getting in here, which is the thing that I've been going after.
Yeah, and listen, I think that sounds great to me. I really love that approach, and I think it's an approach that a lot of people should take. I think historically with fitness, it's always had to been about some, enormous kind of, I'm going to look like this, or I'm going to go and do that event, or like, actually we're not athletes now.
No.
We're like, we're just adults with family and jobs, and actually being consistent in the gym. Lifting weights will have the biggest impact on your health overall, irrelevant of anything else. Yeah. 3 times a week, you're keeping the muscle, you're preventing it wasting away. Wasting away is what's going to get you old. Yeah. Bottom line. So if the first thing on your list is 3 hours in the gym, I just turn up, it's all mapped out. I know I'll give it big when I'm in there. Yeah. I'll hit certain metrics. I leave, that's me done. I think you're absolutely winning. And in terms of like just trimming up, I'm the same. Last year I had probably quite a stressful few months. Injured myself, training went off the ball. I'm the same as everyone else, despite doing this for a living. When I'm not training so much, my diet kind of slips away a little bit. So for me, what will I do now to kind of feel more confident by the time the summer comes? Exactly what you've said. Yeah. No different. Yeah. Little focus on the little metrics that I can focus on.
Well, I'll say something here that it might resonate to anybody that's listening or watching. I sometimes feel that when I'm training really, really well, my diet's worse than if for example, if I had an injury or something like that, I would be more conscious of my eating and drinking. I think mentally, and maybe that's something I need to work on and obviously speak to you guys about, is that sometimes I think maybe because I feel like I'm going to the gym and I'm more hungry and stuff, actually I don't put in as much good stuff as potentially when I'm not training. So it's a bit of a funny one, really. I know it's a bit of a funny one.
So do you think that is because it's I've worked really hard, I deserve it?
Celebrating a win type thing, maybe.
Potentially. Yeah. Or is it because I see a couple of sides to that. I see that side, I deserve it. It's kind of like, because again, you're busy, you're tired, you're ticking on, if you've had a reasonably productive day as well, you've ticked all these boxes, it's like, right, fuck it. Yeah. I'm where I need to be. Yeah. Or is it that we're undernourished? Because you talk about intermittent fasting, I see this a lot as well.
Undernourished.
It absolutely plays a part. One of the biggest things that I see with people that intermittent fast, when it's not naturally something that they just do, is they go too long and they overeat in the latter part of the day.
I would say that's me. 100%.
Okay, 100%. So all I would do in that case is, if you want to, people always say, is fasting the one? I think fasting offers loads of health benefits, right? But is it the one? Well, is it?
But it's
the
not
one
intentional
for
fasting either. Okay. It's not intentional fasting. Okay. It'll be because I set off at 10 o'clock. I've been conscious to not have car snacks. Yeah. So I'm not doing that. I'll get to somewhere, have the meeting, come back.
Yeah, you're just
conscious that I'm coming back, and I get
back,
and then I'm thinking, I'm probably going to have tea about 6ish, so I might just have a bowl of cereal now, or I might just have a packet of crisps now, or I might just make myself a sandwich because I need to eat. Because the lads tell me I've got to keep, that type sort of approach. I don't know whether it resonates with anybody.
Yeah,
it might resonate with people.
Resonates. I hear it a lot, and I can relate to it myself. So in that case, then, the thing that I would say is the one semi-rule, I don't like using rules really, but the semi-rule that you should have is that the first thing you eat has to be high protein and a real meal. Right. And that's a shift because now all of a sudden we've got to think about that. Yeah. And if we're home, we can leave things prepped in the fridge. But I always talk about boiled eggs, cook off some chicken, have some rice or something just prepped somewhere. But it's breaking that fast with a substantial meal.
And I think that's a massive one for us that maybe have not been in that world or for a long time, but for that world is actually breaking that sort of what we would consider a breakfast, which is cereal and things. So we speak to you and Ez will say, oh, I'm about to have me breakfast, or Ryan will put it in the chat and you're like,
what's
to
that?
me, I'm like, that's maybe a lunch abroad or an evening meal type thing. That doesn't feel like a breakfast to me. So I think that's a massive one that, again, might resonate to the guys who listen to this, is that
100%.
That's a real shift to us. You think that doesn't feel like breakfast to us. So again, that's a mind shift change again, that once you get into that, and to be fair, I had it where Ez was really on to me about getting my breakfast in and stuff. So I'd have it here and I would go home and cook before I had a shower, because sometimes when I shower I get tired, or I'll check my phone and then emails come in and then I don't eat well. So it was about getting the eggs in, getting the hex sausages in, getting the the beans in and things like that. To the point where he's like, send me your photo. So I used to have to send me my breakfast stuff, which is brilliant accountability and stuff and things. But I think that's definitely hopefully that's why we're doing this, is that people will say, oh God, I'd never thought about it like that, but that's for me, is that seeing sometimes the breakfast that Ez talks about, or some guys put in the chat, I'm like, that just doesn't feel like a breakfast to me. So maybe that's a mind shift change again. That
100%. We get used to what we used to, don't we? I mean, it's funny. Like 10 years ago, my eating habits were completely different to how they are today. But now I try and avoid having cereal in my house, for example, at all costs. Whereas years ago, I would have eaten boxes of it. Yeah, absolutely. I'd live off cereal. But do you know why? Because you're getting a sugar and carb fix, right, and it releases quickly, so you feel the benefit of it dead quick, and it's quite in my head. I'm thinking, my head, when I have a muesli, I'm thinking I'm full. That helps me now. I won't eat for ages now. But like you say, it's probably false. Usually, listen, some are better than others, right? But I think that's what's happening there, is your blood sugar levels are probably quite low. You're hungry. You've gone a bit too long, and it's again. I am somebody that if I go too far without eating, fucking hell, don't get in the way. Because I'm ready.
Hungry.
Yeah, and I'll eat probably 1,500 calories while I'm thinking about what I'm making for dinner, right? So it's totally normal. But I think that is a real thing. Reaching for the kind of sugarier carbs and snack. It's because that's what you're craving at that time, I believe. Craving, I use the word loosely, but real food, mate. And actually then, on the back of this conversation, I think something really good for you to focus on with your consistency is that one meal of the day, it has to be the first one that you have. And I would say, if we looked, I don't know whether we're tracking calories or not at the moment, but I would say you want a good 600-700 calories, decent first meal that you have. It doesn't matter whether it's at 8 a.m. or 2 p.m.
Okay. But the first thing. Right.
And so that's quite an easy thing for you to tick in your head or to build up to, certainly. And if in 6 weeks' time we were like, hey, we have nailed that first meal of the day, we're winning. Because that with the gym sessions, you've nailed it. Yeah. Protein intake, massively will impact your hunger levels, and combining it with some fats and some carbs will keep you steady, hopefully. For longer.
And like I say, I think that's just the thing with me at times, is it's just that love-hate because of the kidney.
Is
the protein, and that's when I think I get bloated and I get sluggish at times.
We've spoken about avoiding the powders and that.
Don't touch the powders now.
I wouldn't do that. I would get it from real food, defo. Yeah. Perfect. Cool. Okay then, listen, let's wrap it up. Let's get some final thoughts off you then. So say you are somebody listening to this, local-ish to Altrincham, South Manchester, like us blokes do, we don't really want to reach out for help. It feels a bit weird. And then I think even when we're close, we sometimes talk ourselves out of it. What are you going to say to that person right now that's struggling with a regular gym membership, isn't really getting much from it, but apprehensive about perhaps coming in here and getting started?
I think you just got to get in. I think honestly, once you get in, you see that the sessions, we see people of all shapes, sizes, ages here, don't we? Somebody's got, as I do with coaching, is find your super strength. Somebody will be better at something than somebody else, and work on those super strengths, and then work on the areas that you need to get better in, or you want to get better in. But I just think for me the accountability is massive. I think the community is really important. So I went from a place of work, so I'd been in a place of work all my life around people every day. So all of a sudden I went to a place of it was me.
Yeah.
It was me and it was the dog, and it was maybe my mum and dad, and maybe have a phone call, and maybe
on your own quite a lot.
On my own a lot. So getting in and being around that camaraderie and taking the piss out of each other and having banter and things like that, and just speaking to people was massive for me. So people who may be in a similar place, who maybe, you know, have obviously you know, whatever relationship issues or work issues and things like that, you know, I think the community here is massive. You know, there's you know, it is like legacy. It's the All Blacks. There's a no dickheads policy here. They'll get weeded out. I've never seen one in all
two podcasts. Two people have said that.
Yeah,
fucking buzzing with it.
There's just no dickheads policy. There isn't anybody here that's come in and is different to what we know. And there's all people from, you know, very high ranking, you know, businessmen who've been very successful in their lives to, you know, to maybe people who are just working their way up or working their way back and things like that. So I think the community is massive. The accountability is massive. I think the sessions are, like I say, are challenging. They're never dull. You know, they're never ever do I feel like I come in, listen, there's some things that look on there and I'm like, oh shit, because it's an area that I need to get better in, particularly if it's legs. I don't want them to get any bigger. Stop making me do them. But you know, it's always new, it's always different, it's always progressive, it's always changeable. So, you know, I think the big thing is if you come in and you're finding something tough, you know, the coaches will not swap it out just to make it easy for you, but they'll swap it out till you get up to a certain level, or we'll tweak it to make it better. But I just say, just do it, because it's one of the best things I've done. You know, I'd hate to think where I would be, because I wouldn't have been going to the gym. I'd have found an excuse from a busy lifestyle to not go to the gym. You know, it's been one of the best things for me. A couple of people have said it to me, you know, in terms of the way I've looked, and I still, in my opinion, got a long way to go, because that's the way I am.
We're going to work on that.
Yeah,
definitely.
But, you know, so always chasing, you know, the end goal as such, when it's never going to come, because as they say, coaching's, you never complete coaching. You never complete coaching. You never complete your life. Never complete where you feel you're best at. But no, honestly, I just say get in. Try it, because, you know, I believe it's still a week's trial and things like that.
Do a pass,
so get in, which I didn't do, by the way. I'm still mad with Ez about that. I need to speak to you about that. But I still need to see. But just get in, be around it, talk to people, you know. And obviously I need to get better at the ice baths and the sauna is massive. Again, you don't get that at other gyms and stuff. So you get the full, you know, the full opportunity to, you know, to prehab and rehab, and, you know, and also since I joined, you know, you put the extra days on, which I think I've mentioned in chats to you. I'm sure a lot of people have. It's been a godsend.
Yeah,
you know,
6 days a week now.
To have 6 days, 6 days a week is massive, particularly for busy people with, you know, with busy lifestyles and having that flexibility. And, you know, the Sunday, because I've known some gyms that haven't done weekends, you know, like this place, and, you know, the Sunday is massive, because again, if you're a certain type of person, a certain type of age, missing a Saturday, Sunday can be crucial. So even if you've been chasing your tail during the week, and you can then just, you know, you've got the backstop of the Sunday, it's really important from a mindset perspective. But no, get yourself in, get around the lads. There's some top lads there, and like I say, the social we had just recently was brilliant, and the banter, and I think Ez just piling us all against each other at the moment for competitions. Well, but that's something that I've always had in my life. So I love the competition element of it and things, you know, within constraints and stuff and things like that. But I love the competition element. I think most of the lads do, and finding out what the 6 a.m. are done is what time, and 7 a.m.ers and things like that.
The banner is pretty hot at the minute,
it's getting really competitive, which I think can only breed, you know, success, and again that camaraderie and togethership and brothership that I think, you know, this place has certainly brought me over the last few months.
Mega.
Brilliant.
I appreciate your time today, bro.
My pleasure.
I'm buzzing you come in when you did, mate, as well. All right.
Cheers,
nice
Paul.
one.
Top man.
Right, guys, thank you for watching. That was Neil. I hope you took something from our chat and our podcast, and how he's managing to spin all of his plates and still get himself into the gym, because he can see the benefits. If you'd like any more information on what we do at either Results-Based Training, our men's facility, or TBT Fitness, our women's facility, you will find all information in the description of this video. Please reach out and get in touch. We will happily arrange for you to come and try out working with us for free. To begin with, have a great day.